This has got to be one of the bucket list interviews for me. I am so excited. Sat next to me now is the man that pretty much shaped my musical childhood and continues to do so as well, Mr. Trevor Horn. It's an absolute honour. How are you, sir?
It's a pleasure to be here.
We just heard, we kick-started it with Video Killed the Radio Star.
Right.
I guess the track that kick-started the whole journey for you.
Yeah, that was definitely the one. I went from driving around in a worn-out old van to having sort of number one in 16 countries. It was like winning the polls. I
were the front man. I think that's a representation of
yes,
the.
I was the front man. Yes.
Were you a comfortable front man? Did you enjoy it?
Not really, because I wasn't really prepared for it. You see, I was always the guy whenever I played bass, in bands since I was, 12, 13. And I used to sing a bit, but I was always the guy that sang, by the time I get to Phoenix, or the song that nobody else wanted to sing.
Yeah.
And so suddenly, actually being the singer, I didn't really know what to do. I also didn't have a bass guitar around my neck. Looking back on it, I should have taken some dancing lessons.
But I guess that was part of the appeal, was that when the Buggles came along with that, especially with that track, it sounded so otherworldly. As a kind of kid, hearing that and seeing you on kind of Top of the Pops and watching the video as well, which kind of was very kind of Doctor Who-y and spacey and to a youngster.
It was quite innovative at the time. Yeah, but I think that what we were doing, the Pet Shop Boys did it much better. The whole stoic, sort of just standing in one place and not emoting too much.
Was it a quick tune to write that? Did it happen quite quickly?
The actual tune itself, we had the first line for ages. I heard you on the wireless back in '52. We could never figure out what to follow it with.
It's a great opening line.
And then one afternoon, I just came up with lying awake, intently tuning in on you. And then if I was young, it didn't stop you coming through, and it was like we were off. I'd been reading a lot of J.G. Ballard, so all the, they took the credit for your Second Symphony stuff came from all my Ballard stuff, that I'd been reading.
You can't have possibly known that the title of the record would then be used every single time there's a new shift in technology in the media, because every single time it comes, and there's even someone who does a blog now highlighting, they call it the Buggles headline generator, whenever a newspaper kind of reprints it to say the death of radio. And yet here we are.
I know, it's amazing. My daughter sent me something that was going around that had like video and radio star, the Queen and Princess Di, and Di was video and the Queen was radio star, something like that.
Shifting the movement of times.
Yeah, it's funny. No, I had no idea, because those words just popped out of my mouth. Video killed the radio star. I don't know where I got them from. I just came out of my. It always makes me laugh when people take credit for writing things. I mean, people should take credit for the effort that they put in, but the actual writing of it, if somebody sends, it just pops into your head. You don't really video killed the iron
spark,
bar. Or,
Video killed the iron bar. That would be great. And were you always planning on becoming more of a producer? Or was it when the Buggles was, kind of flying high in the charts? Did you think, right, this is the avenue for me?
No, I suppose up until Video Killed the Radio Star, that's all I thought about, being a producer, and I was producing lots of publishing demos for people.
Yeah.
And over a period of 5 years, and it does take a bit of time, I gradually kind of learned a few tricks. And I think that Jeff and Jeff was the same as me. We were both, I was doing lots of publishers' demos. I was playing 5 nights a week. Occasionally, I'd get a record to produce. And after about 5 years, a couple of people started to get deals from things that I produced. So that's what I really wanted to do. I was just playing bass and doing what I did to earn a living to support the production thing. But then when video happened, and so suddenly I was a pop star. It took me a bit by surprise, and then of course I did the crazy thing. I joined Yes as the singer, which was kind of ridiculous, really.
Well, we'll come on to Yes in a minute. But before, in between the Buggles and Yes, one of the most amazing moments in British music happened, which was the Lexicon of Love.
No, between that was between me producing Yes, but I joined Yes in 1980, just after Video Killed the Radio Star had been a big hit. I sang in Yes for on one album and 2 tours.
Wow! And then after that?
Then after that, I decided to go. I thought, this is not for me, and I'm singing like John Anderson in front of 15,000 people is not the easiest thing to do.
Do you find, are you an introvert naturally?
Well, no, not really, but there's certain excesses of rock and roll that never really appealed to me. So, and also you have to realise that was 1980, and in 1980 the studio was a really exciting place to be. All kinds of new stuff was coming out. Live was kind of a bit,
Yeah.
They didn't have in-ear monitors yet and things like that. It was hard going.
It was hit and miss, I guess, wasn't it?
It was different.
At this point, had you started to kind of shape your signature, as it were? You mentioned you kind of developed some tricks, and you'd learnt a few you had a few aces up your sleeve in the studio. When did you become aware that actually, I think I could nail this? Well,
I mean, obviously doing Video Killed the Radio Star and it being a big hit is like, in the pop business, that's your diploma. Especially if you're going to be a producer. You put that on the wall. Right, I got it right once.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe I'll get it right again. I've got a bad memory for sound, so I would always have a memory of an event and a record and try and recreate it. And it always came out sounding different.
Yeah.
So when you say, had I formulated my sound? No, I knew about recording studios. By the time I had a hit, that was a good thing for me. I had a lot of experience. Yeah. When I actually went to produce Dollar and then ABC, I wasn't starting from nothing. I'd been in a studio for like 8 years. I knew how to do 48 track.
Yeah.
I knew all kinds of stuff. And like anything, I had some ideas of my own. I was very into jumpy things, stuff happening left and right.
Yeah.
And
it sounds very wide, isn't it? It's a very wide
sound.
sound.
Absolutely. I love stereo, and I like to really use the stereo. I hate 5.1, but I love stereo. So, I was a man with a mission.
So, take me through Lexicon of Love, because that's the song we're going to play. Look of Love Part 1 in a second. It's such just an incredible sound. It just came like a bolt out of the blue for music fans in Britain, certainly. Martin's voice, the saxophones, the kind of this white boy soul that kind of took over the dance floors. How did that come to be?
Well, it's interesting you would say it like that, because they used to, they were at Sheffield University, various universities, and they used to go to a club where they used to dance. And at first they were a little synth band, but suddenly they had this idea that they wanted to make a dance record. And that's when, when they came to me, they just had one hit with the Tears Are Not Enough. And I don't know, they were very imaginative. The whole bit in the middle of the first single I did, Poison Arrow, had this bit in the middle where it sounded like the girl was in a station and she said, I thought you loved me, but now you don't care. And there's the whole thing goes on. That was their idea, and that's normally the kind of stuff I think of.
Yeah.
But they were really right there. And there was a moment when we were doing Poison Arrow, when 2 days in, when I said to them, well, this is what you sound like playing it, but if you want to get it better than this, do you want to get it better than this, They said, what do you mean, better? And I said, well, so it could compete with an American record. American records are really well done,
Yeah.
And they were, come on, let's go for it. So I really sort of tightened everything, You programmed everything into an early system that I had, and then had them play over the top of it to really tighten it up. By the time we get to this song that you're going to play next, The Look of Love, right?
Yeah.
They were right on it. By that point, I didn't have to do any of the stuff I did on the first thing. They arrived at the studio, they programmed all the drums and the synths, and the drummer, was ready to go. And we had a different bass player who was really good, a guy called Brad Lang. So The Look of Love was really good fun. My main memory of recording A Look of Love is David Bowie came in at one point.
Wow.
Because we were working on the second part, where the bell happens and it goes bop, 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 bop.
Did you know David?
Well, of course I knew of him. I was a huge fan. And we were in Good Earth Studios, and they came in and said, you mind if David Bowie comes in? I said, no, sure, let him come in. And Anne Dudley immediately scarpered to the loo and put makeup on and did her hair. And then he came in. And it was funny because I always think it was that session that made it so I never worked with him. Because he came up with an idea for The Look of Love. He said, why don't you have the girl's voice on an answering machine? I said, no, I've got a different idea. I'm going to get him to talk at the end.
Wow.
He's writing it at the moment. I thought, I wonder...
Wow, you turned down a Bowie idea.
You're dead right.
Good for you. You mentioned there, we will play the track in a second, about taking on board what was happening in America and almost the science and of producing a record, which is something I want to get into in a bit, and certainly with some of the stuff in the 90s that becomes a lot more prevalent, I think. But that was just something that didn't really exist in UK production at the time.
No.
And was it a battle? You know, because some, I would imagine there are a lot of detractors and a lot of people that wanted to argue with you were kind of like, this is sucking the soul out of it. This is not, you know,
all that kind of stuff. But it just really, if you listen to old soul records, the ones that sound really good are the ones that are in time. That's why they sounded good. You know what I mean?
A click track's there for a reason.
Click track's there for a reason. You know. Yeah, I was regarded as excessive, there's no doubt about that. And some engineers and people like that would get very cross with me because they thought I was overdoing stuff. But yeah, that's the funny thing. When I actually went to start working in America in the 90s, I felt so at home because every producer in Los Angeles was even crazier than me.
Yeah.
You know, Richard Parry's got 4 48-track Sonys. I've only had 2.
Well, they treat music a lot differently over there in terms of education as well. So you know, like even like, you know, young drummers over there have been to drumming college for 3 or 4 years, and they can everyone's got their chops, haven't they, over there? Whereas here it's a bit more grassroots.
But we've got the best rubbish musicians in the world.
I love that, the best rubbish musicians. All hail the Clash.
Oh man, all of us compared with the Americans were kind of semi-rubbish, but there's a certain way that we play over here that I like.
So Trevor, take me through Owner of a Lonely Heart. Ever since Virgin relaunched, must be 3 years ago, this has been on heavy rotation. In 2019, Virgin Radio still play this track, I would say, at least 5-6 times a week.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it? That's one of the things I love about the pop music business. There's nothing like, you know, I was watching the TV at the weekend, the match of the day. Liverpool had just won, and they were filming in the stadium, and I could hear Robbie's track, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, blasted now.
Yeah.
It's amazing how music gets around the world. Owner of a Lonely Heart was one of those things that shouldn't have happened. You know, nobody wanted me to go back and work with Yes apart from Yes. Everybody around me really didn't want me to. But I always loved Chris Squire, you know, Chris Squire and Alan White, best rhythm section ever. And they weren't even going to be Yes. When we started with Owner of a Lonely Heart, they were going to be called Cinema.
So it was a bit of a side project originally?
No, a main project, but with different people. Believe me,
okay.
Side projects, it wasn't, you know, because people do them, but you know, anyway, unless you're Phil Collins, his side project took off. That's for sure.
Yeah, sure did, didn't it?
No, they were great, but you know, I went to Trevor Rabin's place to hear all the material for the album. I said I'd do it, and I went to hear the material, and I heard some stuff, and I didn't like much of it. But then he went to the toilet, and he left the tape machine. It was back in the day when he had a 1/4-inch tape machine, and the demo for Owner of a Lonely Heart came on. And when he came out the toilet, I said, "Man, that's a #1, that record, and maybe not the verse, but just that idea." And he said, "No, that's not for Yes." And of course that was the problem, because for a long time Yes really didn't think it was for them. And it was the first time Yes ever played with a drum machine. I had to make them play with the drum machine. There's one time we were talking in the dressing room, and I was saying you can't make people, but you see, the only reason I got them to do it, right, is because I'd been in the band.
Yeah.
Right? So I didn't have to act like a producer. I knew I'd been in the band, and we need to do this. And we need to do this track. You know, I kept saying to them, "Look, I'm a big producer now. You're going to knock me off by having me screw up on your record. No way. You know,
Yeah.
we're going to do this. Because this was on the 9th day of trying to do the backing track, probably, because we were having a lot of trouble trying to get them to play it dead straight. You know, dong, go gong, go gong. You know, just that instead of dong, gong, 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 gong,
Yeah.
or whatever it was that was going on. So that's how it started, and we programmed the drum machine, and Alan White played the drums, and we played everything on top of it. But Trevor Rabin had done a lot of funny things on the demo where he'd used a synth, like with the wibble wheel. I call it the wibble wheel.
The wibble wheel, brilliant.
Yeah, the
I love
wibble
that.
wheel. And I was saying, we've got to do something with those naff old synth lines. Why don't we, let's put them on Crazy Sounds, right? We'll put them on the aux tab. Great. And then we got carried away a bit. You see, the thing was, I thought, oh man, I'm going to have to put some serious gags in the verse because the verse is so duff. This was before I rewrote the verse in the end. I do have a credit on the song because I rewrote the verse. But up to that point, I was totally paranoid that the record was going to be too boring, so I thought I'd better distract people.
And give it a few...
I'll throw in the whiz-bangs.
The whiz-bangs.
But the whiz-bangs work perfectly on that record, and one of the reasons that record works so well is because it's so bare. Most of the time, it's just three things.
Yeah.
No keyboard, and then big bang. And the reason the big bang sounds so good is because the record's so minimal.
Yeah.
You know,
they really jump out at you.
They really jump out at you, yeah. And it was, it was one of those things. It took a while to do, but as it went on, it just got better and better. Till in the end, Armour Dirtigan was crazy about it. He loved it,
So Trevor, you also, as well as producing, as well as kind of writing a bit of Owner of a Lonely Heart, you're also record label boss as well, and along with your wife and with Paul Morley created ZTT, which I remember as a kind of record buying youth, kind of like
It was exciting, wasn't it?
It was exciting.
We were excited.
ZTT it was a badge of quality. You know what I mean? You knew what you were going to get with a ZTT record, which I think you don't get often. Maybe XL recordings now, maybe Strictly Rhythm, maybe those kind of acid jazz at the time.
I always liked those guys. I can't remember their name, but yeah, it's ZTT. That quality, that was the idea. I wanted to do an ad on TV, where I got a load of records and said, "See this isn't what you won't get from ZTT. Rubbish.
Yeah,
one record, bing, yeah, that kind of stuff. Now, of course, we never did it, but the thing is, the Art of Noise, which you're talking about, close to the edit, was something that we were doing in between things. You've got to realise I'd been all around the world with Mark and McLaren. I had loads of weird samples and stuff.
So this was for Buffalo Girls?
Yeah. And I had a great little team around me, Ann Dudley, Gary Lang and JJ and Charlick, And when we were recording Yes, JJ came in and recorded the drums, and the next thing he came up with beatbox. It was Alan White on beatbox, which is so funny.
Yeah.
Alan was so nice about it because I think we paid him for the sample, but it was his drums from a track called Red Light, Green Light, and it was the first time I ever heard a digital drum loop. The other thing that's on close to the edit is boom. I think that there's a low voice on it, isn't there? That's Chris Squire.
Wow.
I never told him at first. Then he said, "Trevor, I just heard that record. That's me on it, isn't it?" "Oh God, Chris. Okay, we'll give you
$5. £quid. Yeah.
Give you a few quid. I've forgotten." and the first thing that the Art of Noise did was beatbox, but then we needed a single from beatbox. So I wanted to call the single "Close to the Edge."
Yeah.
As a sort of tribute to Yes. And Paul Morley turned it into Close to the Edit. And I remember we did Close to the Edit over a weekend. It was a great weekend.
Yeah.
Gary Lang had come up with something else for it, a great bass line. And it's the funniest old track, but it sort of works,
It's fantastic. I mean, from anyone that's interested in music, or aside from being a music fan, if you're interested in the construction of music, or like you say, the production of music, Art of Noise were just like a slap around the chops. I mean, even bands like The Prodigy, they sampled they sampled Art of Noise for
Yeah, they did,
Firestarter.
yeah. For Firestarter, yeah.
Which is the Hey, which is one of the most brilliant samples ever.
Yeah.
So it was.
Yeah, that was on Close to the Edit, wasn't it? Hey.
Then it was just, if I remember rightly, it was just one of the members of Art of Noise were just speaking to a girl in the street and got her to say it. Was that right?
No. Oh, you just made me think. While we were doing Close to the Edit, somebody said maybe we need a bit of talking there, and so I just wrote to be in England in the summertime with my love, close to the edge, because I wanted to get close to the edge because I was
getting that line in.
It was Morley. But no, the girl was JJ sampled her. She was a schoolgirl, and if you listen to the sample tape, it's so funny because you hear it going ah la la, and then she says, "Have I done everything? Oh, there's one more thing. You wanted a hey, and she does the hey, and there it is. It's amazing.
Amazing.
You know?
It's brilliant. So Trevor, I mean, for a lot of people though, of a certain age, probably around about my age, music kind of had a bit of a ground zero, and it was with the next song, which was Relax, Frankie Goes Hollywood. It was an awakening in many ways for a lot of people.
Yeah.
How did you first come across kind of Holly and the Chaps?
Well, I saw Frankie Goes to Hollywood on the Tube, and then I heard them on Radio 1. And so, having heard the song twice, even though it was quite different to the final version, I thought I could do something with it. It's catchy. I just thought, and I really liked Holly's voice. And we discovered that a lot of people didn't want them because they had some pretty serious, their photographs were pretty over the top. Pretty
provocative.
So they signed to us. I mean, I got to be honest, Relax wasn't an easy record to make because the band that we signed wasn't the band that were on the demos. So, so it was tough,
That's a tough production kind of decision to make, isn't it? Because
well, no. It just took me a minute to find out that the guy who was playing guitar had only really been playing guitar for 6 weeks. He's a good guitar player now. He's a lovely guy, and he looked great. And he had a lot of ideas in the end, but it was a tough place to start from after you've been working with Yes.
Yeah.
Because Yes have been in stadiums for 12 years, and they're all brilliant players.
Yeah.
Like best player of their generation.
Yeah.
But but thank goodness, technology was also moving on, and they had an idea. The band had an idea that they wanted to be a cross between Donna Summer and Kiss, and that sort of meant some kind of mechanized dance music that had rock elements in.
Yeah.
And I thought that was intriguing, and I was going to try and make that, and I suppose we did with Relax because but you're right, it's not like anything else. It's if you see, one of the things that's interesting about Relax, the first time anyone locked samples to a drum machine, samples in the Fairlight locked to a Linn drum machine. It was an amazing, great sound, know. That kind of lock that is exciting and is playing something dead simple, 8s on a piano.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could have done it without the machines, but it wouldn't have been.
It would have had that same
absolute, precision to it. So, and we would, I suppose the rock elements of the whiz bangs, like the bam, bam, bam. And it's funny now. I've played that track a lot live because I've got a band, and we play it, and it's a really good arrangement. It's the actual arrangement is really good.
It reminds me, it's going to sound a bit odd, like Martha Reeves and the Vandellas with Heatwave, where it has the cyclic kind of riff going all the way through it, and then it lifts for about 8 bars in the middle, and it's just that euphoric kind of mid-8 lift.
Yeah,
just kind of it's a proper rip your shirt off in the nightclub moment.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, Relax has definitely got a few of those moments in, especially the big orgasm bit at the end.
Yes, which was interesting. It was one of those songs where you kind of half dreaded it coming on the radio. Well, obviously it didn't come on Radio 1, but or coming on a compilation cassette when your dad was in the car, because it was just one of the most embarrassing songs to have to listen to with your parents in the car. But secretly kind of like thrilling as well. I remember kind of poring over the record cover with like friends from school, which was like, it was just insanely kind of provocative. perspective.
Yeah.
Was that kind of like a bit of a holy trinity with Paul Morley? Did Paul kind of spot that you could create a bit of a scandal with them?
Yes.
And
There's nothing to do with me, I assure you. I mean, I knew the record was about sex. I knew that, but I was thinking of it, because I said to Holly at the start of it, that noise is like the horn that comes from the top of the citadel, and then everyone starts to come over,
What, at the beginning there?
Yes.
Hey, 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 yeah.
Yeah, that's the shaman crying out for the people to come, and then they all start coming. Yeah, I mean, I knew it was about sex, and I didn't think he was. I don't think he was saying when you want to suck it, chew it. He said when you want to suck it, to it.
Right.
I was taking, like I suppose I looked at it a bit like, good golly, Miss Molly, you sure like to ball,
Yeah.
It was when you want to come, it's like when you want to be positive, be positive.
But they, I mean, we'll listen to Relax in just a second, but those first three tracks from Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Relax was sex, Two Tribes was war and politics, and then you had kind of religion. I mean, it was the holy trinity of controversy in the UK at that time.
It was something else. 3 number ones. It was amazing.
Great run of tracks. I mean, what a great triple header.
Well, by the time we got to making the album, we were all a good team, including the Frankies. We were all working together. We were having a good time, you know? And when you're all having a good time, the music comes out well, The
next one I want to talk to you about is one of my personal favourites and doesn't get played enough, I think. It's Cry by Godley and Cream.
Oh, right.
And I wanted to ask you, I sensed a little bit of a motif in your sound around this time. So in terms of tempo and that driving dumped, dumped, dumped.
Oh, you don't know, yeah.
Had the same kind of pulse all the way through it, and a lot of Seal stuff did as well, which we'll come on to later as well.
Yeah.
But certainly with Cry, which is a beautiful pop song.
We played Cry live, and it really goes down well.
Yeah.
It's a lovely song to play.
It's great, and the vocal performance is an extraordinary vocal
Well, we
performance.
don't play it with Kevin, but, we have a couple of other people who sing it, but you're right, Kevin's vocal performance. That came about because I met Lol and Kevin in New York when I was working with Foreigner. I did most of the backing tracks for Agent Provocateur, but then I bailed on it because it wasn't my thing. I wasn't enjoying it. But in that time, Lol and Kevin were in New York, and they were editing, the Synchronicity video for the Police.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So every night when I finished, I would go down to the editing suite and watch the Police playing for a couple of hours and just hang with Lol and Kevin.
Great.
It was great. And then one night at the weekend, we did a song called Hit the Box, which was basically me doing scratching but using a TV. Back the TV used to have a big, in America, they'd be like, in England there was 3 channels even back then.
They had a great big giant thing.
But in America, the giant thing, they'd get a beat going, and then I'd rhythmically change TV channels, and it was a cool effect. You never knew what you were going to get.
Yeah.
Right? But and we came up with this hit the box away. Come on, let's do a track. So we went, a Saturday night, and we did a demo of this Hit the Box. Of course, it sounded good on Saturday night. It didn't sound so great on Monday morning. But Foreigner heard it. They hated it. I mean, they hated it. Just the kind of thing you like doing, because it was much more hip-hop than their stuff.
Right, yeah, a bit more avant-garde.
And that was just about the same time that the Frankie video arrived for Relax, and that was a bit of a shock to them too. So that's how I met Lol and Kevin. And then after I came back to England, some point the next year, Lol was saying, come on, let's do Hit the Box. You said we were going to do it. So I put 3 days in the studio. I went down to Surrey Sound with them, and we started to try and do Hit the Box, I don't know, I was just, oh God, do we have to do this? Because it was a good idea in New York, and it was fun. But we can't, the TVs over here are useless, we can't do anything. And I said, and I'm so tired of doing weird stuff. Haven't you got a good song? Have you got a good song? Let's do a good song. I always remember Kevin saying, he wants to do a song. That's weird. I said, well, yeah, let's be really weird. Let's do a song. So they played me that one. They'd written it 15 years before. I said, that sounds great. We'll do that one.
Wow, and it's because it's for you. It's a pretty straightforward arrangement, and
well, it isn't. You tried playing it. It's actually one of the most complicated. It goes between 3 chords.
Oh, and also there's a few extra beats in the bar. And,
all over the place. You've got to know what you're doing playing that, man.
Let's have a listen to it. I'll tell you, when it came before we listened to it, it came. They sprinkled a bit of their fairy dust in terms of the video on it. I mean, it's got an extremely memorable video at the time, which was pretty revolutionary, wasn't it?
It was because they were doing it analog. They were doing morphing between faces. Yeah, it was great.
It was brilliant. Trevor, I've been waiting about 25 years to ask you about this track. This was one of the first songs that I listened to and actually tried to find out who produced it rather than I knew who sung it, but I wanted to find out who made that sound, and it was you. It's Pet Shop Boys and Left to My Own Devices.
Left to My Own Devices.
For me, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, it is virtually the perfect pop record for me. It's got everything. It's got melodrama. It's got stereophonic, it's got wit, it's got irony, it's got and you can really shake your arse to it as well. It's a great running song as well.
Is it really?
Oh, it's a brilliant running song. If you're flagging at about mile 3, stick this on, and after the one of the greatest intros of all time in pop, when the beat kicks in, you're good to go for another 3 or 4 miles.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Take me through how you kind of teamed up, because it's almost like a marriage in pop heaven. You Neil and Chris getting together.
I saw them last week because I did a benefit for the Roundhouse, and they got up and did Left to My Own Devices and It's All Right. And Lowell Cream, who's in my band, and I, we used to be in 10cc. We did the backing vocals along with the girls. It was I hadn't seen them for a while. I love those 2 guys. They're so nice.
Yeah,
they're so funny. Back in the 80s, I mean. When I first heard Left to My Own Devices, I said, you're going to need an orchestra to pull this one off. And they were like, well, I've never used an orchestra before. That'd be interesting. So it was a new thing for them.
So it was a live orchestra?
Oh, it's a real orchestra,
wow.
Yeah, very much so. I always remember Lippo and I trying to get a beat for it, and Lippo did the synclavier drums, and I was like, nah, this synclavier is too posh. Get the old MPC out.
Too posh?
Too posh.
Brilliant.
So I got an MPC out and banged the beat out and on the MPC, and then Lippo came up with that brilliant bass line. I loved that, man.
With the kind of Italian house kind of piano over the top.
Yeah, well, that was Chris.
Yeah.
Chris played that. So once we had that, and the orchestra, Neil was still writing bits of the song because he got one of the lines from me about Debussy to a disco beat.
Oh man, was that your line?
Well, no. Well, he said to me, "What are you doing next?" And I said, "I'm going to put Debussy to a disco beat." And he loved that so much, he put it in. But he gave me a writing credit on the B side because he took the line. And to his credit, he's always said that was my line. So sometimes I have worked with people who haven't done it. But what I loved about that record was just, because I love lyrics in pop records, and Neil's lyrics are just the best.
They are the best.
And of course, Chris. You don't realise Chris writes all the music. The music to that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's so simple. All those lines about, I get out of bed at 10:30, phone a friend who's a party animal. There's some tea, maybe if you're with me. He'll do some shopping.
It doesn't rhyme. As a kid, I was like, that doesn't rhyme. Why is it so good?
I know. But I remember the arranger on that particular track is a brilliant guy called Richard Niles. And I said to him, I want real drama in the third verse when he was talking about the TV.
Yeah.
And I thought what he came up with was absolutely sensational. I loved that string part. And so did the string part. All over, and he said, fix some food. Maybe I'll write, waiting for the minute I hear you say, that bit.
Yeah. It's just extraordinary.
It's extraordinary, and the strings at the end were a bit of a challenge because we had to simplify them. But we brought when we played at the Roundhouse, I brought Sally as well. She did the opera part, and the opera part only came after we'd done the orchestra because when we first did it, it just started with boom, 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 but it just started there.
Yeah.
But after we did the orchestra, I edited some of the orchestra together and made that intro. and because I'd only just heard of house music, and everyone was going on about house music. I was getting with it, so I got Sally to sing house. You know.
Next up, Trevor, I want to talk to you about what I class as the most suicidal karaoke song ever. It's "Kiss from a Rose" by Seal. Take me through your relationship with Seal, because it's a cracker. How did you first meet him?
My late wife, Jill Sinclair, sort of put out the feelers. She said a modern day Nat King Cole, and she came in one day and said, I found him. You listen to this, and she played me a demo of Crazy. And Seal had put his voice through a phaser on Crazy, so I said, I can't hear his voice there, he's going through a phaser. But really, I was just in a bad mood, and a little bit in a bad mood about something, and God knows what it was. And because I definitely liked We're Never Gonna Survive Unless We Get a Little Bit Crazy. Yeah, I saw Seal across the room, and he was 6'7" with weirdy dreads, and I was like, whoa, me and him going to have anything in common? But if you've ever met Seal, Seal's amazing. He's so charming. The Americans just like, he's so unusual for the Americans. You know, they've never met anybody quite like him. You know, well, they certainly have never heard anybody quite like him.
Nat King Cole's a great reference, actually. His voice he's got an extraordinary voice, Seal has.
Yeah, well, you know, my wife fixed up for me to meet him, and we kind of hit it off straight away, really. I loved his voice. I couldn't wait to get him in the studio after I heard him sing. It took me a little bit of coaxing, and I had to get him in gradually.
Was he quite reticent at first?
No. His manager was scared of me.
Did you have a fierce reputation?
It was scared of me, like I might take it over and do some stuff that whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But no, Seal and I always got on well. I always remember a funny moment when I'd got him to come to America, and I'd reworked Crazy completely, and I'd done it like a Janet Jackson track. I played it to him, and he looked at me and he said, Trevor, play that again and I'll show you something, right? We played the demo, and he said, look at me. Do I move like that?
Yeah.
I said, you know, you're dead right. You don't at all. Forget it. Scrap that.
Wow.
All right. We'll do, but we got to do something. I said, we got to do it again, because we got to, you know. So we you know, because we already recorded it once by the time he came out to work.
He was expertly marketed as well. Was he ZTT?
It was ZTT going through Warner Brothers, and Rob Dickens ran Warner Brothers at the time. But my late wife was adamant that the artwork would be really good. And Seal wasn't into some big urban thing either, you know what I mean?
He had ambitions.
Yeah, well, he wanted to play stadiums and wanted to do something. And if you think back, the artwork for that first album was extraordinary.
Just the monochrome.
Yeah, the monochrome, and he looked extraordinary too. I mean, he just looked. I mean, he still does. Seal walks in the room.
You know he's there.
Everybody will turn around and look at him. You know, that's one of the things. If you're going to be a singer, you know.
Well, I chose "Kiss from a Rose," which isn't from the first album. I mean, the first album's brilliant.
Yeah, I love the first album.
I chose "Kiss from a Rose" mainly because it's just so different. It really kind of.
Well, that's what you see. Some people, they like that. Other people are kind of do the same stuff over and over again. Seal wrote that tune, and that's, if you look at the songwriting credits, I think that's one of the few Seal tunes that's just Seal. And he did the demo of it with a lot of the tricks that were on the record, bits that were on the record. And I thought it was extraordinary when I first heard it. It was like,
kind of baroque
But I think part of it came from, Seal grew up in Kilburn, you see, and Seal knows all the Irish rebel songs and everything, and used to hang out with a lot of the Irish. But if you think about it, it's not that far away.
Yeah.
And so he obviously picked up. But you know, the other thing about Seal, he's not just a really good singer. He's kind of a poet as well. You know, in his own way, he comes up with stuff. You know, he had I never knew necessarily exactly what it was about. I knew what some of the songs...
I read the lyrics for the first time last week, and they're impossible to penetrate. They're quite indecipherable.
Kiss from a Rose on the Grey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never quite knew what he was on about.
But sometimes it's better not to know, isn't it?
It's better not to know, yeah. And, you know, funny you should say it's a tough one for karaoke people. I never...
Believe me, it's impossible.
Seal was singing last week on his concert on Thursday, and he reminded me that because I put 3/8 bars in it, you see, 2 3/8 bars, just at a certain point to give him the time to get a breath. You know, it starts off. There used to be a grand tower alone on the sea. Yeah, but there's a pause there. You see, if you were to say strictly in time, you would have gone, there's a tower alone on the sea. You became straight away.
Yeah.
Well, there's a slight pause, and that pause is the 3/8 bar. I don't even think about it.
Wow.
But I put it there for that reason. So anybody else tries to sing it generally messes up.
Oh, mate, it's impossible. You get to the third verse and there's all the oohs going on in the background. You don't know which avenue to go down. You end up in a right mess and you just give up. Trust me, I've done it many a time.
I have to say, the afternoon when he did the backing vocals on Kiss from a Rose was one of those sessions that you remember all your life. You know, because, you know, I've been, you know, spent years in the studio. But I remember it was like a Tuesday afternoon. And he called me up and he said, I've got some really good ideas for the backing vocals for Kiss from a Rose. I'll show you them. I'll come in and we'll do them. And he came in and we just worked flat out for like 5 hours. He did the whole lot. And once Seal gets going, it's like, you know, we used to 8-track things, you know, 8-track that bit of vocal, but it would be first take every time.
Wow.
Bang, 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 bang. 8, right, we got that. And all of that stuff, the counter stuff that he does on that last verse, I was like, whoa. And, you know, it just got better and better. You know, one of those things. You know, when he kind of rips out some of those R&B licks on towards the end, it's just great. You know, I loved all of that.
And I guess as a producer, it's your job to kind of harness that and know that you're in that moment now, and you need to kind of you've got to be ready.
Kidding. When he was singing that stuff, get it while it's hot, man. This is like heaven. This is manna from heaven. You know, when you're a producer.
And we are now slap bang in 2019, and you're back at the front again. You know, from the Buggles right through to Trevor Horn Reimagines the 80s. And your voice is there in fine fettle, I have to say, along with some of your buddies and contemporaries. How did the idea come about?
This was my manager. My manager's really an A&R guy at heart. And A&R guys think of new ideas for ways to sell records. And he came up with this one. And, you know, I think it's a good one, I thought.
It's great fun.
The more I thought about it, the more I liked it. Because I didn't want to just do straight covers. I wanted to try and twist the songs around a bit, you know, and have a bit of fun with them. And you start thinking, wow, what could we do with a 65-piece orchestra? And then, you know, me and the arranger would get talking to him. Imagine a songwriting team had written Girls on Film for their girl band. That's a good idea, you know, but we've got a 65-piece orchestra to play with as well. So it was fun, like, so we don't have to have the guitar part, you know what I mean? And all the things that, you know, let's start to make it into like a cover, you know.
No, exactly. Your whiz bangs can be done on a bassoon.
Yes, exactly.
And presumably, everyone, I can't imagine many people taking long to decide to come and join you. So people like Robbie are there, Matt Carl's there, Seal's there.
Well, you're right, actually. Most of the people who did it said they'd do it straight off, you know. And it's all right, you know, if you've worked with people and they know that they're going to come out sounding okay and it's not going to be glowing, so they'll generally give it a go. It's if you haven't worked with people, it can be hard to persuade them sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
Especially anybody who's like big current, you know, is always the most paranoid person.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, you're kidding.
Were a lot of the songs, because were a lot of the songs on there ones that you heard at the time, back in the day, and thought, I'd love to have a stab at that?
There were songs that I liked the lyrics of.
Yeah.
I always liked Joe Jackson. I nearly did Stepping Out because I love Stepping Out.
It's different for girls, though. It's such a strange lyric.
I thought it was a strange lyric, but it reminded me of a song from like a musical where, you know, something's happened. They've just been arguing and he suddenly goes, what the hell is wrong with you tonight? You know, that kind of thing.
Conversations. You don't hear them often.
Yeah, you don't hear them in songs. And, you know, the idea of doing Dancing in the Dark as a ballad was one of those things that I thought about, you know, little girl alone at Christmas, you know. I just need a boyfriend. I just need anything.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is, you know. That's why I put the brass band at the front. So, yeah, I was doing... That's why Reimagines is a good title, because I'm always reimagining it.
And we're going to hear Seal again with Ashes to Ashes. Yeah. So presumably, does Seal get first dibs?
He generally does. That's the funny thing. You see, I said to Seal, you know, Seal, out of everybody I worked with, you're probably the only guy who's sung the whole album. You know?
Wow.
And he is. Not that, you know, I love Steve Hogarth's voice, you know, don't get me wrong. But, so yeah, what happened was, you know, Steve Hogarth came up. No, actually, you know who came up with the idea of Different for Girls? Guy Garvey.
Oh, wow.
He suggested it to me, and then Steve Hogarth suggested Ashes to Ashes, and he did it initially.
Wow.
And Seal heard it, and I was saying to Seal, I think you should do this Different for Girls, and Seal heard Ashes to Ashes. No.
That one.
I want to do that one. All right, I want to do that one. So Steve Hogarth was a sport about it, and he went on to the other one.
Brilliant.
You know.
And you're playing live. You're out there.
We're touring. Yeah.
How's that? How is it?
Well, I've got a 9-piece band for the festival shows, and a 20-piece band for the headline shows. 20-piece band has a small orchestra.
Wow.
It's a great band. I've got really great musicians, and everyone enjoys it. You know, the average age of the band is actually quite young. It's just me and a lot of the old guys. and we play a lot of it, you know, we play a lot without track because we're kind of old-fashioned. I'm much happier with that, not, you know, for the uninitiated. Most people, when you go and see them live nowadays, most of what you're hearing is coming off a hard drive. And not with us, we're playing it.
And you're out there this summer,
Yeah, we're out there this summer.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to come and hunt you down and find you.
You should.
Listen, Trevor, it's been an absolute honour. I could have sat talking to you. We could have gone through every single song. But thank you for taking us through a few slices of an incredible career. Trevor Horn, thanks so much.
The best music all day. Virgin Radio.